no, where'd Zoom go? Oh my goodness, what is happening? I think Zoom just crashed too.
Oh no.
I can try our best.
Okay.
Okay.
It's Monday, Tuesday.
Oh, that's crazy. All righty, we're ready.
Okay.
All right. Hi, guys. So we are going to be going through how to pull restrictive covenants today. So this is a part of our larger class when we do all of public records and everything, but we had some people ask specifically about restrictive covenants. So we're going to really break this down and just do a class just on the restrictive covenants. So, and what I would like to do today is go through Onslow County. Onslow County tends to have the easiest way to kind of do a little bit of everything, but we are also going to do it so that we're going to pull from Pender County as well, so you guys can see just how to, you know, reach out to a second county and learn how to do their stuff. Theirs is a little bit different, but we should still be able to walk you through it. After we're done with this, I do have step-by-step instructions for how to do this. Again, part of our bigger thing for searching public records altogether. But I did just kind of cut and paste and just do it for restrictive covenants. So I will have that to Heather for her to email out to everybody. So, you know, don't worry about taking too many notes. It really is step-by-step instructions for how to do this. But I do just want to walk you through in general how to pull restrictive covenants. The easiest ways to do that, and then also what to do with them if you run into roadblocks. And then, like I said, we will go on to Pender County as well and do them from there. So the easiest way to pull restrictive covenants would be if you have the book and page number already. So sometimes you find them on like deed pages and everything. So as you're doing the rest of public records, when I teach that class, usually we start with GIS and we just kind of go through. We pull the plat maps, we pull the deeds, we do all of that. And when you're looking at the deeds, a lot of times it will say that this deed is subject to restrictive covenants, and it will give you book and page numbers. That's super helpful. Now, same as Flex or anything else, garbage in, garbage out. You know, people do make mistakes. Sometimes the numbers in those deeds could be incorrect. So just do make sure that you're always double checking and everything, but it's really easy when you're typing in the deed and page numbers. So what I'm going to start with, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to go to Onslow County. All right. So because my everything's going kind of weird, can everybody see the Onslow County website right now?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So like I said, if you do have book and page numbers, that's a great way to start. What I always tell people when we do the public records class as well is sometimes when you're in an older neighborhood like Bryn Mawr or something in Jacksonville where you may not think that they have restrictive covenants, if you look at that deed, you will in fact see that they do. So that gives you your first indication that there are restrictive covenants. If it's a newer neighborhood, in general, there's always going to be restrictive covenants on any neighborhood from, I don't know, the 90s on probably. So you definitely want to look for those, but do be aware that neighborhoods as old as from the 40s and stuff do have restrictive covenants, and I'll show you how to pull all of those as well. But the best way to just start, if you do not know if there's restrictive covenants, if there was nothing on the deed, if you've looked at enough deeds, you'll know that sometimes there's a ton of information and sometimes it's the very basic of information. The only thing that needs to be on deeds is that there's, you know, that the deed is subject to restrictive covenants of record. They don't have to say where they are. So what we do when we start with this is the onslowcountync.gov website. Like I said, don't worry too much about taking notes. We will send this out to you, but this is a great place to start for absolutely anything. If you do not know this page, please do just start, you know, going to it, just the basic page and looking through it. If you're ever looking for GIS maps, we've talked a lot about those flood maps changing. A lot of that information is right here in GIS maps. This is also the easiest way to start your public records search because it kind of compiles everything all in the same place except for restrictive covenants and like septic and sewer permits. So that's a great place to start. E-services is where we're going to spend our time today, but also check out this open data tab. I'm going to click on it real quick just because they just put a ton of information on here recently. So if you've ever been looking for, you know, links to Parks and Rec for your clients or anything like that, the budget and financials are here, and planning and development. So if you wanted to know what roads projects are going, anything like that, this is a great resource for you. And they've got the base GIS data sets. They've got Onslow County Services, education. Like if there's anything that you need, this is just a super, super great little click, and you can just explore that to your heart's desire because there is tons and tons in there. We're going to go back to the main page. Like I said, most of everything we're doing today is on this. So my notes will tell you when I send them to you that you go to the Onslow County homepage, and then you're going to click on e-services in the main menu. Once you click on that, pretty much everything that we do as agents are going to be kind of in this little section right here under Find. If you're looking for sewer permits, building permits, septic permits, all of that's going to be in the search permits and plans. So you could click on that, but we're not doing that today. Today we are focusing on restrictive covenants. So we're going to go to the deed books. You can also find this by Googling Onslow County Register of Deeds, you know, a plethora of different things you can get to this page. But if you're wondering how to get to it from the Onslow County NC website, this is the easiest way because you've already been in there probably looking at those GIS maps. So this will always come up the first time you sign into the page every day. You'll get the site requirements. It'll tell you what you need. You just go ahead and hit acknowledge, and now you're in. So this is the Register of Deeds page for Onslow County. Just a little bit of housekeeping as we go through here. There's a bunch of different things you can do. If you're looking for a specific deed or anything like that, and you know the people's first and last names, you can start here on Quick Name. All you need are the first like 3 letters of their name. So if you're not exactly sure how to spell it, less is more on this page. You know, if it's Antonio Johnson or whatever, you know, you can type in Johnson and you can just start the A-N-T and that'll work. So Quick Name is a great way to start that. We're going to be working mostly in advanced name today since we're looking for those restrictive covenants. We'll go over a little bit under property because this is another great way to find deeds and everything. This is that book page area. So if you had those, you know, if you'd pulled a deed and it had told you where to find the restrictive covenants, or somebody else had given you those numbers and said, hey, I think this is where those restrictive covenants are, you can type it in just as a book and page number, which is a super fast way to do it. But do be aware of this last part, 1977 to current. That is the year 1977. So if you have any records that are before 1977, you need to jump over here to where we have the records from 1734 to 1976. So this is one of our troubleshooting things that we'll get to is every once in a while you will have a book and page number and you'll type it in here and get an error, or you get something that isn't actually what you're looking for. If that's an older neighborhood, you may want to, jump over here to the old records because you're probably in there. So those are just the things to be aware of as we're going through here. But let me show you how some of this works. So with property, another cool thing that you can do, let's click on this first. So if you're in property, you can drop this down from property type to subdivision, and then you can look up anything from subdivision. All you have to do is start typing in anything. So let's say we're looking at Camden Woods. If you start typing that in, you'll be able to kind of scroll and see what it is and see what's around it and everything, but that'll come up. You are looking for a specific lot number, like if you were actually looking for a deed or something that you knew the specific lot number for within Camden Woods, you could go ahead and type like 14 or whatever in here and that should pop up. But if we're just looking for everything on Camden Woods, then we just click search all matches. Once we're in here, you're going to find deeds and deeds of trust and a couple other things, but you are not going to find restrictive covenants. This is not what we're really going to be spending a lot of time on, But if you are looking for something specifically in this, you can sort them by types so that all the deeds are together and all of that. And you'll see if we scroll down here that everything in this type of property search really are deeds, deeds of trust, and you'll get, you'll get some miscellaneous, and a lot of the miscellaneous are going to be easements. So you'll see a lot of Jones Onslow and all of that kind of stuff where they put the wires underground. So if you're ever looking for something like that, you could do that within that property search. You'll also have release of deeds and deeds of trust. And sometimes you'll see a couple restrictive covenants, but they do not have to be necessarily in this property search. But this is a good place to start if you don't know what you're looking for. So as we look in here, we can see that we've got Camden Woods and we've got section 1A, 1B, and 1C. Okay. So as we're already in here, this is a great place. Like I said, if we're starting and your people are in 1C, chances are that you're going to want to look at 1A. Let me get rid of this over here. So you're probably going to want to look at 1A, 1B, and 1C. A lot of times, if you just see section 1 and you come over here, you'll see that it's about 30 pages long. That's a really good indication that that is the bulk of the restrictive covenants. And then as you have amendments, they're going to come up. But all we're seeing on here are amendments. Okay. So, and these are only 2 pages. So I can tell you right now that this is not all of the restrictive covenants for this neighborhood. But what we do have now are book and page numbers. So let's say that we are in section 1C. So now we have this number. We have 4777399. Okay. So if we wanted to, and we wanted to see what those bulk ones are, and come back up here to book page 477, oops, that's not 4777399. And search, enter. Okay. And now you have this. You have what we just looked at, 4777399. But what else do we have up here? This is all of Camden Woods. Okay. So now you have all of the restrictive covenants for this. Also, if you had clicked on this 4777399, let's go ahead and do that. If you click on that little image over there, it'll actually pull these up. And then if you read through it, it's going to say that this is the second amendment to the master declaration. Right there is another clue, other than this only being 2 pages, that this is only an amendment. These are not the master declarations. So what we are looking for now are those master declarations. Again, we found them by going up to the book and page, but you'll also be able to find them if you start reading through here, and it's going to tell you. So it's going to tell you that section 1 was recorded in 4001-672. Okay. So now that you have that number, if you couldn't get it off of a deed or anything else, you would also be able to type those numbers into the book page and get those master declarations. So I'm just showing you a bunch of different ways to find all of this. And now you could read through and see what this amendment did, whether it was just adding a section, whether it was changing something. So you always do want to make sure though, because if you've read through those 21 pages of master declarations, it may have said that the fences could only be 4 feet high. Well, this amendment may say that it's changed it so that you can have 6-foot high fences in this section. So you do want to read through these. A lot of times if it's only 2 pages long, really all that it's saying is that it is annexing section 1C into the master declarations of section 1. So that's a lot of times, like I said, if you've only got 2 pages, it probably really is only saying, hey, we've got a new section and this is now part of everything else that we saw. If you return to the previous page, it'll take us back to where all of those are, and then you could read through those master covenants. All right, so that's a couple different ways that you could do that. But the faster way that I've found, and this is where we've titled this whole class as Pulling Like a Pro, is instead of jumping through a bunch of those different hoops to, look through property and go through subdivision and just get to the amendments where you might get confused and think that those are the only restrictive covenants, that usually the faster way to do this is the advanced name option right here. And this is how most attorneys would do it if they were trying to find restrictive covenants. So if you click on advanced name, it pretty much looks like the quick name screen. But what you can do in here is where it says firm and surname, you just start typing in the subdivision. So again, we'll go with Camden Woods. And you will probably want to be as specific as you can if you know the exact name up here. That way it's not pulling, like if there was another neighborhood called like Camden Trail or something like that, it's not going to pull their covenants too. But if you're not 100% sure, if you just typed Camden in there and then you're just very aware that you need to make sure you're only looking at Camden Woods, then you're fine with that too. But as soon as you hit enter on this or search all matches, it's going to show you plat maps and restrictive covenants. And that is all that the advanced name is going to show you. So if you go to advanced name and you type a subdivision in, you're only going to get plat maps and restrictive covenants. So that'll cut out all those deeds and deeds of trust and miscellaneous and everything else. Okay, so that makes it nice and easy when you're just trying to find restrictive covenants. Again, and the way that the Register of Deeds page works is that these are going to be from oldest to newest at all times. But anytime you have an underlined line up here, you can change how those are sorted. What I usually find easiest to do is hit the type button, and that's going to put all the maps together and all the restrictive covenants together, but it's still going to sort the restrictive covenants by date. So even though you do that once with the type, it's going to pull all the maps up top, pull all the restrictive covenants down to the bottom, but it's still going to keep them in order. So again, right here, you're going to see that those master declarations of 21 pages were recorded first, and you're going to see that each one of the subsequent sections were recorded after that. So if you're in 1C, you're going to need this one. You're going to need the master covenants. That's a material fact that it has these master covenants. It's also a material fact that it has this amendment. Okay? Because we had clicked on that 1C and it didn't reference this one and this one, this amendment stands alone. You do not need to include the First Amendment and this Second Amendment for 1A and 1B. 1C is separate from 1A and 1B, but that is not always the case. So make sure that when you find your section and you click on it, that you read through it, because if this right here said that it's adding it, so this one says it's recorded master declaration of restrictive and protective covenants for Camden Woods in Camden Woods section 1. And then it gave you this. If it also said that it was amending section 1A and section 2A here, it would give those book and page numbers. In that case, you want to make sure that your clients are getting all 4 of these. But it didn't. It just said that this 1C was annexing to this one right here, this 21 pages. So if you are in 1C, you don't need to include 1A and 1B. But like I said, that's just for this specific subdivision. Sometimes you will get that where you'll have, you know, the section 1 or the master declaration, and then you'll have, you know, this one amended the fences, and this one amended that they can have above ground pools, and this one is your section, but you need to do all of them. So do get to your section that you're in and read that front page saying what is being annexed to what. Okay, does that make sense, hopefully? All right, so like I said, so after we've done that, we've gone through and we've seen that we could start it with property, we could start it with the book and page, and in general, if you were to type in like we did, this book and page, it is going to also pull up the things that are associated with it. So when we did that, so let's say now that we have a house in 1B, so 4564 350. So if we did that, 4564 350, Sure enough, it did what it was supposed to do. It pulled up 4564350. It also pulled up the one that is Annex 2, the reference record that it is attached to, which is really great, but do not rely on that. Make sure that you read the section you're in, and if it gives you other numbers, and it gave you these numbers, it gave you 4001,672. If that did not pull up when you pulled up this book page, make sure that you're pulling that up separately, or you're doing what we talked about as being kind of the way to do it the fastest, and going to advanced name, because all of those will come up. So real quick, before I move on to give you some examples of what you should be looking for in restrictive covenants, did anybody have any questions on polling? Okay, if you do have any questions as we go, I know Heather's kind of keeping an eye on it. I don't necessarily see the chat stuff right away if while I'm screen sharing, because I'm really seeing my own screens. But if everybody can kind of keep their eye on it, just break in if somebody's sent some chat that you need me to slow down or go back to something. Just, you know, yell at me, unmute yourself, and tell me to go back to something, and we will do that. Okay. So that's my first example that I have, is that I wanted you to see that sometimes there are amendments. Okay, so the second one, so now I'm going to go in here, because with my examples, I have some book and page numbers. So if, let's say that I was in Hidden Oaks and the deed had referenced this book and page number. So now I'm going to go just straight to this and do 3823532. And search. Okay, so I should come up with Hidden Oaks. And this is the one I'm looking for, this 32 pages, the big one. You will see that there are restrictive covenants that were done afterwards. So this is section 1A and section 2, but there's other amendments too. So I'm probably going to want to read through those. If I have a specific house in 2A or whatever, I'm going to want to check 2A and go back. But right now, what I want to point out to you are just some of the things. When you see that one of your houses that you're selling or that your buyer is looking at have restrictive covenants, it is your job. These are material facts. The Real Estate Commission has made it very clear that these are material facts now. So it is your job to look for them. If you do not find them, and a reasonable and prudent agent couldn't have found them, you will probably be able to convince the Real Estate Commission that you couldn't find them. But if you're taking all these steps, if you went in here and you looked through the property section, and you looked through advanced name, and you looked through the deeds, and you just could not find these restrictive covenants, and you had let your buyers know, you know, you might be okay with the restrictive, or with the Real Estate Commission. Anything that the buyer would find in their due diligence period is the buyer's onus. We live in a caveat emptor state. It is buyer beware, but they have hired you as a professional to help them find these things. So we're going to help them find these things. If you're not finding them, another good thing to do would probably be to give your buyers the website address, onslow-county-nc.gov, walk them through briefly how to possibly find these restrictive covenants, and see if they can do them too. Sometimes fresh eyes, whatever, but then you have also given them the opportunity to find their public records themselves. Anything on any of these county pages are public records. You know, it's all about teaching them how to find things about their own house too, but they have hired you as a professional, so please do be looking all these ways. Okay. So I am going to see if my computer does not shut me down on this. So I'm going to pull up all pages, because otherwise you have to click through one page at a time. It's thinking. Okay, so as it is thinking, there are lots of things within restrictive covenants that we're looking for. Let me make this as big as possible for everybody. Okay, everybody, hopefully it switched and you can still see this. So this is Master Declaration of Covenants and Restrictions for Hidden Oaks. So that's great. And it's 32 pages, so that's a really good indication that these are the main restrictive covenants. So as you're reading through them, there's a lot of legalese that comes in restrictive covenants, and you can kind of just breeze over a lot of these things. A lot of these are going to be definitions at the beginning, but if you've never read through restrictive covenants, do take the time on the next house that matters to you, whether it's a listing that you have or a buyer that's building or buying in a neighborhood that has restrictive covenants, and read through them. Yes, it's 32 pages, but it is, you know, I mean, you can kind of breeze through some of this to just know what's all in here. So this right here, Hidden Oaks at Hunters Creek Homeowners Association, Inc. That is the name. So if you ever have to fill out an HOA addendum, or your people are doing the residential property addendum, or you are trying to get some sort of certificate of assessment, this is the name of the homeowners association. They tell you what common areas mean. They tell you who the declaration is. Like I said, these are all definitions. Sorry if I am making you dizzy by going through this kind of quickly. But most of these are just kind of saying who the homeowners association is, who the declarants are, all of that. When you do start seeing things like this, like common area and maintenance, this is saying what the homeowners association is going to take care of. Okay, association and management, and it's going to start telling you streets and roads. We know that this is important. Who is maintaining the streets? All of that. If you work with a bunch of lenders who do not like private road maintenance or anything else, they're always going to ask you for a road maintenance certificate or recorded docs showing road maintenance. A lot of times you can find that right in here. All restrictive covenants, all plat maps, everything like that are recorded documents. If they are asking you for recorded documents, this is where you need to be looking. So if you see something like this that's actually talking about streets and roads, this is what you can send to them. Point out that it's on page, it starts on page 6, and send these to them. Okay. Architectural Control Committee. This is where, you know, when your people are adding a fence, they're going to ask if they can add a fence. Well, this is where you can kind of see and who they're going to have to send it to make sure that they can have those fences. Assessments. When you start seeing the assessments set, this is where it's going to tell you a lot of times where those assessments start. So initial minimum annual assessment shall be $100 per year per lot for 2012 and 2013. So if this was new construction in 2012 and 2013, if we were the listing agents and we were just putting these in for the first time, this is how you would start your HOA addendum. Even if nothing had been set up yet. The restrictive covenants say in 2012 and 2013 that those dues should have been $100 per year. You can start with that. You are going to want to follow up with whoever is in charge of the HOA and ask them if anything's changed. And then of course, it's also going to tell you in that, sorry, going back, how often those can change. So it'll usually say after a year or two, they can go up by 10%. So if you are not 10, 20, 30%, it can say whatever it wants. But if you are past 2012 and 2013, you're going to want to call that homeowners association, whoever is managing it, and you are going to want to ask them what the current year's dues are. Because just because this said that it was $100 in 2012 and 2013 doesn't mean that in 2020 it's going to be $100. You do need to check that up. So general restrictions. This is usually about the time, and it's usually somewhere around, you know, page 13, page 17, somewhere in there, depending on how much legalese is in here. These are the things that your buyers are going to be most interested in, the general restrictions. So residential purposes, you have to kind of look through all of this. And again, if your people have ever said the words, I have a home business and I need signage in the front yard, well, that's where you need to start looking for that. If they've said the words, I need to have a 20 by 20 building and back where I can work on commercial cars. You need to be looking at that, at the allowable and prohibited structures. If they've said that they make meth, you probably don't want to work with them. Now, meth is very, very illegal, and it is also illegal to buy and sell meth houses without a lot of disclaimers as well. So I would definitely take a look at that. The reason why I pulled up these specific ones though are the next section. Animals are important to people. If your people have said the words, I have a Doberman, can this neighborhood have those? That now becomes a material fact, and that's what you're looking for. Because this neighborhood, nope. This neighborhood says that there are specific prohibited breeds. They are Rottweiler, Doberman, Mastiff, Boxer, Bulldog. We all know Marines love their bulldogs. Pit bulls, chows, and wolf hybrids. If your people have said that they have any of those breeds, this is probably not the neighborhood for them. Again, so this was the Master Covenants from 2012 and 2013. If your people are in section 2C, you're going to want to look at those because maybe those breed restrictions have been lifted by that point. But this is your first indication that this might, if they are between neighborhoods, that this might not be the choice for them. You need to point this out to them. I would have them be initialing right next to that. And so you do need to look for things like that. It may seem unfair or whatever, but it is in the restrictive covenants. And so you need to let your people know about that. Okay. We're not going to go through everything in this restrictive covenants, but like I said, there's lots of things that you should be looking for when you look at those. Mailboxes, you know, if they say that you can't switch out the mailbox, then you shouldn't switch out the mailbox. If they say that you can't have giant signs, you can't have giant signs. So just make sure that you are reading through those. When your people have raised their hand and says something is important to them, make sure that they're reading this. If they are overwhelmed by 32 pages, you should know enough to let them know, hey, you really want to be looking from page 13 through page 18, because those are what are kind of telling you about your general restrictions. Okay. Well, this is a big one too. So mineral reservations, even if it wasn't on the deed, so rights in and rents and royalties related to removal of minerals have been reserved by a prior owner. So if you have, so let's say now you are listing a house in Hidden Oaks and you're filling out that mineral oil and gas rights or helping your homeowners fill that out. This says that the mineral reservations have been rescinded by a prior owner. So you should not be filling that out. No representation, no. There should be a yes in there because you have seen this. And now you have a book and page number. So you need to go back to 676.26 and 638.95, and you need to read through what those mineral right rescissions are. And you need to make sure that your sellers are disclosing that as well as possible. And if they're not, if they do want to fill that out, no representation, no, this is a material fact and you know it now. Okay. So make sure that you are reading through these because it does make a difference for how you're listing houses. The fact that this one said that there are wetlands conservation areas, you now need to be specifically looking at that plat map to make sure that you know if there are 404 protected wetlands on that property, that specific property or not. Just because there are wetlands in the neighborhood doesn't mean that every lot will have them. So like I said, make sure that you are reading through all of these. Okay, so we are going to shut that down. And we are going to return to previous page. Now, like I said, if you needed any of the other sections, those are in there too. So just to keep things moving along, I'm going to pull up the book and page number for another neighborhood that is actually really close by the Hidden Oaks. And again, 31 pages, and then we have section 2, section 3, and section 4A. So if your people were in the farm at Hunters Creek and they were in section 3, you're going to want to come to this one first. So let's go here. We may as well just walk through this and look at what it says it is amending. So it is incorporating the master declaration of 4393-510, but it doesn't say that it is incorporating those other sections. Okay, so again, if we were in section 3, we do not need to include 2 in what our buyers or sellers are looking at. We need section 3 and we need section 1. Okay, so let's click on this. And again, it may take us a second to get these all up and running. So we talked about breed restrictions on the past one. So in Hidden Oaks, it had said specifically, no Mastiffs, Dobermans, Chows, Pit Bulls, all of that, and it got very specific. What I want to show you on this one in the farm is a different way of people doing that. So close your eyes if you get dizzy, because I am scrolling quickly down to page 17. All right, so here again, we have animals, and we have no animals, livestock or poultry, except as household pets. Pets need to be on a leash. They can be fined if they're not, all of that kind of stuff. Owner is responsible for pickup and removal of all solid waste. All of that is pretty basic. So what I want to point out to you is the next section though. So in that last one, they spoke specifically about specific breeds. But we all know that there are small dogs or even labs or anything else. I mean, there can be dangerous animals that aren't those specific breeds. Usually when those specific breeds are in restrictive covenants, it's due to insurance reasons. If you call insurance agents, it usually does cost a little bit more or sometimes make you uninsurable with certain insurance agents if you have Pit Bulls, Chows, Dobermans, whatever. But those of us who do have those big dogs also know that they aren't necessarily more dangerous than any other dog. It's just an insurance thing. What this clause does, and Frank Irwin puts this in a lot of his that I'm going to show you in just a second, is makes it a little bit more theoretical. So we're going to read through this. It is hilarious when you find stuff in this. And this is one of the reasons why you should read through restrictive covenants, is because if you've ever needed a laugh in your day, sometimes you'll get them in the least likely places. So this one, the following are examples of inherently dangerous animals that shall not be deemed an exclusive listing. That's the important part. So these are the animals that aren't allowed in Hidden Oaks. Not like in, you know, when you're in in Hidden Oaks, Dobermans aren't allowed. In the farm, bats, wolves, wolf hybrids, lions, tigers, cheetahs, jaguars, cougars, leopards, snow leopards, clouded leopards, all hyenas, all bear, all apes, old and new world monkeys, persimmons, elephant species, rhinoceros, hippopotamus, boar, banteng, cupre, anoa, cape buffalo, all crocodilia. Okay. Now with the, you know, I do know some Marines that have some, you know, ball pythons and all of this. And I know everybody wants a hippopotamus for Christmas. But do you know a whole lot of people that have any of these? Are they even allowed per North Carolina or Jacksonville law? Probably not. But the reason why they throw these in here and make it a little bit out of the ordinary and a little bit maybe extra is because of exactly what I was just talking about. They give you examples of inherently dangerous animals. And I don't know too many people that would say that bears or leopards or even Cape buffalo are not inherently dangerous animals, but shall not be deemed an exclusive listing. So what they're saying with this is actually a lot better way to put it, because if you are just saying that Pit Bulls and Dobermans and all of them are restricted, you're saying that the lovely Labradoodle next door couldn't do some damage. The lovely Labradoodle is 70 pounds and have jaws just as strong as any of those other animals and could be inherently dangerous depending on the dog. So, and there's cats too. My cat's mean as all get out. But what they're saying in this is that they're not going to list specific dog breeds. They're going to say that you cannot, in this neighborhood, have a dangerous animal. So that means that if your Labradoodle bites a child or your Labradoodle is displaying dangerous behavior, that the HOA can term it an inherently dangerous animal and they can go through their system of trying to remove that animal from the neighborhood. So again, it's funny when you come across things like this, when you're reading through, and this did give me a laugh the very first time I saw it a couple years ago. But it's actually a really sound way of doing things, because it is saying that we're not going to restrict that list. We're going to say that if your animal is dangerous, then we can do something about it. So do be aware. But like I said, it is kind of fun to read through some of those things every once in a while. So we've talked about breed restrictions mostly. I also want to show you some other things that can come through in when you're looking through restrictive covenants that you may not be aware of. So now we are looking at the preserve at Tidewater, 45 pages. Very good reason why it's 45 pages long. They have a lot of restrictions. So again, it comes back to, I mean, all of these things are important, but again, if your people have said anything such as, we have children, we have young children, we have young active children who love riding their bikes. Well, that's pretty normal, and you've probably seen those children when you're out at your showings, and you've probably seen that they're active and that they might enjoy riding bikes, or the kids have exclaimed, oh my gosh, sidewalks, I'm so excited, I can't wait to ride my bike. Well, that's all great. Sorry if you're dizzy again. You're gonna go to page 15 here. So here we go. So we're used to seeing this. No boats parked in front of the homes, all of that kind of stuff. But read through it. No camper, trailer, motor, mobile homes, tractor trailer, or similar type of vehicle. Bicycles, scooters, toys, or other personal articles shall be permitted to remain on any lot or on any street at any time. This neighborhood actually means that if your kid leaves their bike in the front yard, you can be fined for that. So if your people have said that they have young children who enjoy riding bikes and are active and are in and out of the house all the time, this may not be the neighborhood for them. Now, if you live in the Tidewater Preserve and you know that the HOA is not as strict about that as this says, great. And they may find that when they live there as well. We don't know. All we know as their professional representatives are what is in black and white right here, that they cannot leave their bicycles, scooters, or toys on the lot or the street at any time. And that's just something to draw their attention to. Whether they think that that is perfectly reasonable and they want to deal with that or not is not up to you, but they need to know that that is a very real possibility in this neighborhood. And again, we've got animals in here. We've got nuisances. We've got statuary, TV satellite dishes, and outside antennas. So again, no yard statuary, yard art, or TV satellite signal receiving dishes permitted on any lot, and no television or radio antennas, all of that kind of stuff. Again, no yard statuary or yard art on the lot. If you have people that love their garden signs and all kinds of stuff, again, they need to read through this and make sure if that is important to them or not. Christmas decorations. If your people have said they love to decorate for Christmas, they want to put an extra outlet outside for it. Christmas decorations may only be exhibited between November 20th and January 7th of the following year. Okay? So if they decorate for Christmas all year long, or if they start on October 31st, this may not be the neighborhood for them, and it has to be down after the Epiphany. Okay? Flags. No flag shall be flown upon any lot or common area with the exception of the state of North Carolina and the flag of the United States. What does that exclude that may be important to somebody who's right outside Stone Bay and Sneed's Ferry Gate? They cannot fly a Marine Corps flag in this neighborhood. And no flags on a vertical flagpole. They can only be 4x6. Again, If you think that will be a problem for your people, you need to draw their attention to this. You don't need to make comments about it. You don't need to do anything else, but you need to draw their attention to this because they could get fined for doing the wrong thing for what that neighborhood says is the wrong thing. Okay, so make sure that you are reading through this. No political signs. If they are a huge supporter of any specific candidate, they cannot put the political signs in their neighborhood. Okay, so just make sure that you're reading through these and drawing people's attention to things that you think might be problems for them. And if you haven't had tons of conversations with your people, you may not know that they're a huge so-and-so supporter or whatever, and that they campaign for the candidate from some certain party every year. You may not know that from talking to them. But if you've drawn their attention to pages 13 through 18 or whatever it is in this one, and just said, hey, please read through this and see if any of this is important to you, and then we can discuss it, or, you know, or you just need to know that that's the thing, that's a good place to start. Okay, so we talked before about when you get to the point where you have older listings. So we're going to go back here. So we're returning to previous page again. And let's say that we have, again, book and page numbers. And I went in here and I looked up 482-164. And I'm supposed to be looking for restrictive covenants in Tanglewood. Okay, nothing came up. And then I started thinking, okay, well, my house, the house that I'm looking at in Tanglewood was built in 1972. 1977 to current, and the ones before that. So I come back to these records. This one you have to scroll down to get to page 482. So now I'm looking at 482. And make sure you go all the way over to the left on here to start typing in numbers. But 164, hit enter or search. There it goes. Okay, and we found it. Declaration. And Tanglewoods, and let's say I'm looking at lot 20. Okay, so I know these are my restrictive covenants, and here they start. Okay, so in the older books, so you noticed in the newer books that it gave you the 25 pages you were looking at, the 2 pages you were looking at, and it stopped. Well, in these are run-on pages. So you are actually going to need to go through and click on the next couple pages and see where these stop. And these happen to stop 3 pages later, okay? And so you just have to save those 3 pages. So you save 164, 165, 166, 167, I guess they were. Oh no, those 3, 165, 166, 167. And so you can just come in here, click those, and when you go up to print, just do selected pages instead of all pages. And now you've got your Tanglewood's Declaration of Covenants, okay? So just because this was built in the 70s doesn't mean that there aren't any covenants. They usually aren't quite as intensive, but they will have things about some stuff. You know, sometimes it'll still have the livestock and poultry, it'll still have garbage, sometimes it'll still have fences and stuff. So make sure that you read through those. But again, 3 pages are a little bit easier to read through than 45. But you still want to make sure that you have disclosed that there are indeed restrictive covenants for that lot in Tanglewoods, and that you have given those to your people. The other thing that these older books do, and go to 312 and 70. So that one was pretty nice. That one started on a page and ended on a page. This is the other thing that these older records do. Like I said, they are run-ons. So now we're looking for restrictive covenants for another subdivision, but when I clicked on this that was on the deed, 31270, I'm seeing just, I'm like, what is this? What you're looking for starts halfway down the page. So here starts the declaration. So make sure that you're not on the wrong page. If you were looking for declaration, if you're looking for restrictive covenants for Hawthorne Park, and you had gotten the book and page number from the deed that said 31270, and you get to 31270 and you're like, oh, this is the wrong one. Just make sure that you scroll down because they are run-ons. So sometimes they start halfway down the page. And then again, you'd start clicking and seeing where they stop. Okay? So that's part of the older book. Some other cool things that are in here. Let's see, we've got B1. Look how pretty this is. Good luck reading that if you actually had to find something in there. Beautiful script handwriting from, I don't even know what year, 1782. So, you know, Lord help you if you have to try to read something in there that you know, just hire an expert for that at that point. But it is really cool. These really do go back to 1734. So there's some really neat stuff in here if you ever wanted to do that. So this has come up a couple times. It actually just came up with one of the agents in my office yesterday. And so just some other things to make sure when you're reading through covenants, and I just want to point out what are problems and what aren't. So this one, and I do have I have 2 lots listed in Overbrook. So if anybody wants to buy some lots, but if I'm listing a lot in Overbrook, and let's say it's lot 6 and 7 in Overbrook, great. Looking at this, going through, okay, these are the restrictive covenants, looking, okay, buildings, they have to be more than 5 feet from the lot side, area of less than 10,000 feet, no noxious stuff, no trailers, basements, tents, shacks, garages, or barns. They can't be they have to be bigger than 700 square feet on the first floor. Okay, we got that, no easements. This is the problem in H. No persons of any race other than Caucasian race shall use or occupy any building or lot except that the covenant shall not prevent occupancy by domestic servants of a different race domiciled with an owner or tenant. What? That, you know, it's horrifying when you read things like that. And we all know that that's not part of fair housing and it's not part of the federal law. But what happens here is I saw that and I went back through. So these were recorded in like 1942 and covenants have not been re-recorded since then. So I called Keith Fisher, our board attorney, to just ask, you know, do these need to be re-recorded to take that out? Anything like that? So the answer is no. If there is a federal law, a state law, anything that makes this so that that is not acceptable anymore, that is not a thing, the restrictive covenants do not need to be re-recorded. Because there is a section. Sorry. Usually I know where this is. But there is a line within here that says, okay, so invalidation of any one of these covenants by judgment or court order shall in no wise affect the other provisions which shall remain in full force and effect. So that line right there is usually in all of these, but basically that line H, that is horrifying, was invalidated by a judgment and court order saying that's not a thing. And but it also says that just because that one provision or more than one provision were invalidated doesn't mean that the rest of them don't run with the land. So just because that one section is struck out doesn't mean that you can have a house that's less than 700 square feet on the first level. So do be aware that even if, you know, you see something like that and you're like, oh, well, then these restrictive covenants are invalid because that's obviously stupid, doesn't mean that the rest of them are. So just make sure that you are reading through things, but you'll be surprised at what you find. Definitely read through your restrictive covenants all the time. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Onslow County. But I know I'm going to open it up for questions real quick before we go to Pender County. Because I know sometimes, I mean, the whole point of this is that sometimes you do run into problems. One of the big problems is that you get a little thing like this saying that this doesn't exist. A lot of times when you get that, it's because like this one says like 064 instead of 164. If there's a 0 on the front of a number from a deed book or something that's pulling automatically, it's not going to pull anything up. But you just need to go back to book page and take out that leading 0. So let's say that that was actually like 3111064. So instead of typing in 064, you're just going to type in 64 and then it should work. That one doesn't because I'm just making up numbers. But so that's one of the little troubleshooting things is if there's any leading zeros in any of these, you're going to want to take them out before you type in a page number. But like I said, most of your troubleshooting is going to be here. If you are typing in a neighborhood into advanced name and nothing comes up, it is possible that there are no restrictive covenants for that neighborhood. It's also possible that that neighborhood was developed, even if the house wasn't. The house could have been built in the 90s, but if the neighborhood was developed before 1976, the restrictive covenants may be in here. So those are most of your troubleshooting. If nothing comes up when you type in the neighborhood name into here, so let's do another one. Okay, so you have Blue Creek Estates. So here you have section 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, and 2B. Okay. You do have up here too another declaration though. So down here, these are all separate. So you've got section 1A, and then these have attached to it. So you definitely want to read through 1A, and then you want to read through some of these. But you do have this declaration up here that has the wetlands declaration and delineation. So if anything else attaches, you always want to click on that and just make sure, just see if it applies to your house or not. But this one does, it applies to everything in there, but it's just going to say, you know, if it's in this map and page, then they just want to make sure that they're calling your attention to the fact that there are some wetlands conservation areas in there. So just make sure you're doing your job and looking at everything that could attach to your house. Again, if you miss one, but you have pulled the rest of them and it's obvious that you've done your job, whether the commission is going to censor you or not, I mean, that's always up to the commission, but you have, in general, done what a reasonable and prudent agent would have done. But if it was as easy as looking up and seeing that there was one more attachment that was important to your people because they did not want wetlands on their property, you probably at that point, you know, again, how easy is that to just click that button and just look and see if it applies to your house? It's just a couple more minutes of reading. So before I move on, does anybody have any questions? And Kim, yes, I see your thing on Carteret. I will see. I haven't worked with Carteret in a while, but yeah, we'll see what we can do there. So let's move on to Pender. And if anybody has any questions, we can always come back to Onslow County as well. Just let me know. But now we're going to do the same thing. So when we started at onslowcountync.gov, surprisingly, most of these, you know, most everybody's pretty standardized in the government. So pendercountync.gov. And now you're on their lovely website, and there's a bunch of stuff on here too. So please do check all of those things. What we're going to be working on in here, oops, I'm sorry, you do that, is the online services. And again, this is all on the sheet that I'll have Heather send out to everybody who attended today. But if you click on online services, you'll come to this page. Here you'll find Pender County GIS and Pender County ROD, which is Register of Deeds. So these are the two that I work with most when I come in. but do know that the tax information, code red, all of that kind of stuff is on here as well. And those are all online services. Pender County works a little bit differently than Onslow County does. And they're not, the GIS and Register of Deeds are connected in some ways. But again, it's not super easy to, it's not as easy and not as connected as the Onslow County site. But since we're talking about restrictive covenants, we're going to go to the Register of Deeds site. You'll have to go down here, same as on the other one. You need to acknowledge disclaimers and everything. And now you're in their Register of Deeds site. So there are two different ways to find things in here as well. So again, if you happen to have the book and page number from the deed or anything, fantastic. That is a super easy way to do it. In that sense, you're going to hit, if you hit advanced over here, this is where you can type in book and page numbers. Okay, so if you have the book and page numbers from the deeds or from any other sources, that's fantastic. That makes it a lot easier. But just like with the advanced search in Onslow County, that's the same as what's over here. So when we first came to this site, this is all the advanced stuff, but these were the first things that pulled up. So if you were to just type in, let's go with Magnolia Reserve, just because I just pulled these, and you just type in the subdivision name, same as you did in Onslow County, and you hit search or enter, the HOA, all of the declarations and everything come up. So this is one of the ways that that Pender County differs from Onslow County. Sometimes they call their restrictive covenants in this system. Sometimes they flag them as DECL, which is declarations, and sometimes it's R/COV for restrictive covenants. So make sure if you ever have to search that you're looking at both of those, okay? So when we look at these, it's the same thing. So these are not restrictive covenants. This is just saying that they understand that 70 West understands that stuff goes with it. This is your plat map. So again, it works kind of like that advanced search where it's just pulling up maps and covenants for the most part. But to get to any of these, if you just double click, they will come up and then you can read through them, okay? So once again, you've got 25 pages of covenants, declaration of covenants for Magnolia Reserve. That's what we're looking for. Right here, they put it on here as well. Regulates or prohibits display of, and they missed the word flags. I actually need to bring that up to them, and political signs. But so they're already putting it in there, that they've got some things in there that you're gonna have to look at if your people are big flag people or anything like that. Again, I mean, all of these are going to be recorded the same way because they are state of North Carolina. Again, you've got a bunch of definitions. You've got the homeowners association and the formation of the association. You've got their covenants for assessment, and they do not have a monetary value in here anywhere saying that they start at like 100 or anything like that other one did. They don't have to have those in there. As soon as the HOA is set up, we'll be able to get that from the managers. But this is a brand new subdivision, like just a bunch of dirt right now. So there is not, the HOA has not been set up yet. We are working on that. But again, so now we get to restrictions, architectural control, and maintenance. So you've got minimum square footage, you've got plan and site, all of these kind of things. And now we get to fences. So no fences in front yards. If they're on the side yards, they have to be 20 feet back. So you read through all of that. Land use and building types, nuisances, temporary structures. Here we go with vehicles and boats. So no boat, motorboat, camper, trailer, motor or mobile homes, or similar type vehicle to remain on any lot or any street or any common element at any time without written consent of association. So without that written consent, what a lot of restrictive covenants say is that you can have boats, but they have to be parked in like the backyard or so that they're not visible. This one is saying that they cannot be there at any time without written consent of the association. And because we don't know the association yet, we don't know if they're ever going to give consent for that. So if your people have an RV and a boat and all kinds of stuff, again, this is going to be very important to them to contact the HOA ahead of time and make sure that that's okay. So again, we have breed restrictions down here, but we also have no more than a total of 2 dogs, cats, or other household pets. So if you're showing someone around that has 3 dogs, this might not be the neighborhood for them. That is pretty restrictive right there. And again, then we also have Pit Bull Terriers, Staffordshire Terriers, American Bullies, all of that. Those are the restricted breeds in this neighborhood. So if you know you people have that, you also want to talk to them about that. Signs, mailboxes, this is the big one. No fire pits or open flames are permitted. No fire pits in the entire neighborhood, but grills are permitted so long as they're kept and used in the backyard behind the house. Okay? Exterior flags. No flagpoles coming out of the ground or in front of the house. So no flags. And garden size flags must be approved by the Architectural Control Committee. So again, if your people like flags, maybe not the neighborhood for them. Okay, so you can see how these covenants get really restrictive really fast, and you need to be aware that you need to be showing these to your people. If you have not made it a habit to make restrictive covenants available in docs and flex or to your people, you need to start doing that. The Real Estate Commission, as I said before, does say that restrictive covenants are material facts, and you can see why. Okay, so in Pender County, if you're in here and you wanted to get back to the last pages and everything, if you just click back on consolidated index, it takes you back to that last page. You can see here too that there are 2 restrictive covenants officially, but these are the same book and page. They just, one of them, whoever put these in happened to title it as Magnolia Reserve one time and Magnolia Reserve HOA Inc. one time. So, but these are the exact same thing. If you clicked on the other one, it would look exactly the same. So you don't need to click on both of those. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Again, so, and then if you want to wipe out things and go back and clear the screen, if you just click this Research Search Fields button, it gives you back to your clear screen. So again, just like Advanced Name, that was one way to do it. The other way to do it is to click Advanced. Again, if you happen to have the book and page number, you can type that in. So the ones we just looked at was 47132837. Click search, and there you go again. There's those restrictive covenants, and now it's in there 3 times. So again, you can look there that the book page are the same, document numbers are the same, so all 3 of these things are the same thing. Just click on one and print that out. So that's another way you can do it. And this one, this is how I found these, is when I was on GIS mapping, the deed that came up actually had this book and page number for the restrictive covenants. So all I had to do was type that in here. Okay, so we're going to clear that out again. The other way you can do it, if you have a neighborhood name and it didn't come up here, or you didn't try it that way and you don't have a book and page, you can also search this way. So again, this is where it becomes a little bit harder. So if you get to this stage, you have run out of options, because this is the most difficult way to do it. It is much easier if you can type in a name here or a book and page number here. But if you can't find things that way and you just know that those restrictive covenants exist, you can also look in book type. If you're looking for a plat map, you're going to look at maps. But what we're looking for, I'm sorry. So you're in property. Oh, sorry, property. And then you start looking through all of these. I don't want all of them. Okay. So you've got a ton of stuff. The first one we want to check are all the declarations. So you're probably going to want to click on all of these. Anything that says declaration. And then you're going to want to continue down. And you're going to want to find restrictive covenants. So now you've got all of those. And then if you, let me think. Okay, so let's say we're looking for Belvedere Plantation and it come up any other way. So we're trying it this way. Once we hit search, it should pull all of those up. Okay, so it should be pulling up just restrictive covenants or any declarations. Okay, and there are a lot of them. And again, same like Onslow County, these don't necessarily go by date. So you're gonna, if you wanted to make sure they were in order, you can sort them by date. And now they're in order. So, and then you just have to look at what you're looking for. If you were looking for section 2, those are in here, and you're just gonna wanna start clicking around. If you were looking for a specific book and page and it just wasn't coming up there somehow, you can look over here. So you've got a couple different ways to do it. But like I said, if you do end up doing it this way, where it didn't come up all by itself that way, just make sure once you click on property that you're clicking on as many options as you can for what these would be called. And like I said, usually it's restrictive covenants or declarations. Just make sure you're pulling as much as you can. All right. So that's about it for Pender County. And most of the other counties kind of work the same way. So I'm going to come back here and we're going to let's see if theirs is just as easy. Okay, so now we're in Carteret and I am doing this with you guys because I have not done this one for years. So, minutes, online payment. Let's try services, county forms online. Okay. All right, and I know I have done these before. Don't want forms. All right, we're going to start with GIS, then we'll go back, but let's see. Actually, let me try this one. Sorry, we'll try to get to where we are and then we will backtrack to see if we can make this a little bit easier for everybody. A what? A go-to. He's gonna have to call. Okay, so that's not helpful. Let me get rid of some of this. All right. Let us try. So we are just going to, let's do. Okay, so yeah, so if all else fails, that's usually what I do is I just, you know, Google or whatever, Carteret, Register of Deeds, Pender, Register of Deeds, whatever. And then what you're going to want to do is you've got, these are all your forms if you need to order anything. But if you go to the deeds website, sometimes you have to sign into some of these, but it doesn't look like you do anymore with this one. So what we're looking for, of course, you've got birth, death, marriage, notary records. But if you go to real estate and search real estate index, now you have these. Oh yeah, it's been a while since I did this. But I believe, let's try. Okay, so Kim, can you yell out a subdivision in Carteret for me? Or anybody? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I think it's called Marsh Harbor.
Ooh, that's not how you spell it. Okay, so not that way. So let's go back. Let's try. This is all hit or miss. It has been years since I tried to do anything in Carteret. All right. So document type. And that's it. So we've got flat maps here. These are all. Let's view it and just make sure. Yeah, so these are all releases. Release map. That's not helpful. So I want to. And yeah, this may be a good question for us to, you know, even call Carteret with and ask them. But let's see if they even have. Okay, so they do have declarations. They do have restrictive covenants. I don't know if we can do it with both. So let's try. No. Right, so obviously that one doesn't work. So let's see. Still checked. Okay, let's try them. Okay, so I spelled harbor wrong. That's one of them. All right, so you do have declarations and restrictive covenants. And like I said, because I just put marsh in there, and that is, like I said, that's probably a good way to do it if you're not sure how to spell things. But these should actually all be, since they're declarations. So let's just click on one of these and see what we've got. Yep, there they are. And now that you have one of them up, like I said, if this wasn't so this is a revised declaration of covenants. So as you're looking in them, it should tell you what it's revising at some point. So you should have a book and page number at some point, but maybe not. Yeah, so again, we've got Flagstaff up here. Oh, it's not giving me the last book and page number, but so yeah, so if you looked through this, you'd be able to probably find what it's attaching to. Yeah, so there are those, but like I said, I would, since these aren't kind of written quite as, not as easy to see, but it looks like you probably could like check all of the Marsh Harbor ones that have declarations. And hopefully you could view all of those at the same time and you could just go through. But yeah, so it looks like, so let's return to that last page and see what we did. All right, yeah. Okay, so yeah, so if you're looking for those, it looks like the best thing to do is just kind of like using this as the combined name search as an advanced search. Just start typing it in up here, but just make sure that you come down here and click declarations and restrictive covenants, because when we did it without these, oh, that's even easier. Okay, so when we did it without these checked, maybe it's because I spelled it wrong. So let's try it now, spelling it correctly. Yeah, So there they are. Okay, so that is how you do it, just the same as everything else, or all the other counties. All the deeds and easements and everything will come up, and you could, you know, looks like, let me sort by document type. Is probably how I would do it, just so you have them all in one place, because there's obviously a couple pages here. But yeah, once you get to those declarations and everything, you'd be able to get to there. So yeah, it looks like most of the counties, once you can get to the actual pages, it really is just typing them in here. And then, like I said, to just make it a little bit easier on you, just go ahead and if you know what you're looking for, just make sure that you do both of those, because they call them two different things, and you should be good. So like I said, we just Googled Carteret County Register of Deeds and went back that way. Were you able to, I'll try to write that maybe on the sheet where we are, but Carteret County Register of Deeds, Deeds website, real estate, search real estate, and start typing. Okay. All right. So did anybody else have any questions? Not seeing anything else. So yeah, but like I said, a lot of these, any public records or anything like that, you guys just play around with it. Said, don't be afraid to click buttons. That's my biggest thing in Flex too. Just click those buttons and keep going. But if you run into any neighborhoods that you are not figuring out, please do feel free to call or email me or contact Heather at the board if you're more comfortable doing that first, and she'll get you in contact with me, and I'd be happy to walk you through or try it myself to see if I can find them. There are neighborhoods that do not have restrictive covenants. A lot of times, obviously, those will be the not in subdivision ones. But you can be surprised that every once in a while, some of those not in a specific subdivision, if there is a plat map, sometimes some things kind of go with the land. So you do want to definitely check those. But even ones that are in subdivisions don't always have restrictive covenants. So it is very possible that you're doing everything right and there are just no restrictive covenants. My advice to you is to just make sure that you are annotating that as you go. Put that somewhere in your file that these are the steps I took to see if there are restrictive covenants. I could not find any. I even asked a second party person. I asked my broker in charge. I asked my trainer. I asked this random woman at the board who did a class on it to look for them. They couldn't find them either. And that is enough. You did what a reasonable and prudent agent should do. Do not be afraid that you're not doing your job. Just take those steps though. But like I said, restrictive covenants can be very interesting to read through, because sometimes you find those little funny pearls in there or anything else, but they do have a lot of great information and they are material facts. Just keep that in mind. So I think that's it for us. Thank you so much, guys. If you have any questions about other counties or anything like that too, we are regional, obviously. We do stuff everywhere. New Hanover works very similarly to Pender. But if you have any questions, definitely let us know. Feel free to let your friends know that this is uploaded. Heather always puts up there too all the classes that have been recorded. You can always access these after the fact. So if you have any questions about anything that I said or anything and you just want to go back over it, do click on those links. You can find them anywhere, including the JBOR Facebook pages and the JBOR website. Do like the JBOR Facebook page, become friends with them and everything. They give out tons of good information. But thank you again, guys. For the rest of this week, if you've got time tomorrow, there is a wonderful fair housing class being given by NAR's Fair Housing Director. He's the biggest of the big guys. He's doing this class, and it is through ncrealtors.org. There was a wonderful link that Jamie sent out in her last email saying what's on there, but we can definitely help you get registered for that if you would like to take that. Again, fair housing is huge right now. There's really great links to it, but we definitely want to make sure that we are doing our jobs to represent our profession and our clients as well as we can. So that is a fantastic one. And the rest of this month too, we've got a dot loop class. Melinda Hires is going to be doing dot loop next week, and we have Brock Goss doing commercial lingo, and we're going to have realist here the last week of, or on the 29th. If you have any questions about any of that, we are really trying to get a lot of content out there for you. So we really do appreciate you guys. Let us know what we can do for you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.